Greetings. In this video, I want to talk about the calls settings in Teams. And to get to the settings page in Teams, you go to the three dots next to your profile picture and go to settings. Now let's go to calls. The legacy Teams client, Teams Classic, had another option that defaulted to calls ring me. The absence of this option implies that all calls ring on Teams and you can answer using the client. So if you have your desktop client, if you have your mobile client and someone calls you, then you can pick up from your Teams client. Now the other option is to forward all calls to voicemail. But before that, let's look at the default options and Teams behavior when someone calls or rings on Teams. Now when you don't answer a call, it goes to voicemail after 20 seconds. And the default language is English, and Teams is using the default ring tone. The other options here, I can do not redirect calls, so it just drops the call. And here, the other one here, I have 20 seconds. I can bring it down to 10 seconds all the way up to a minute, 60 seconds. And I can also, with ringtones, I can choose different ringtones, and with the languages, this is the greeting, the default greeting language. This is English US, and I can choose any of the supported 36 languages. Now the default voicemail or the standard voicemail message that Teams plays. Now the signed in user here is Alice Williams, and if someone calls Alice and she doesn't pick up in 20 seconds by default, Teams will play the following. Alice Williams is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone. When you finish, please hang up or press the pound key for more options. This is the default, the standard voicemail message that Teams plays if we don't have a custom greeting and we don't type anything here. I'll get to these ones in a second. But this is the default Teams behavior when someone rings and we don't have any customization on this page. Now the other option, I can forward all calls to voicemail, and I get this section which is manage voicemail. The first thing I can do, I can record a greeting. If I don't like the default, the standard greeting that Teams plays, then I can record one, and I can also type a message here. This is my text to speech customized greeting. And if I have both, if I record a greeting and I have this text here, what will happen? So if I go to this little circle, it will tell me that if you have a recorded greeting, it will override this option. So the recorded greeting will override this option. So that's that. And I talked about this, which is the language. Now this is for the default greeting, not for the recorded or customized greeting, is different one. And the other option here is what happens when the call is redirected to voicemail. When callers get to voicemail, so I don't pick up in 20 seconds by default and the callers get to voicemail. What do you want Teams to do? So we have four options. You can let the caller record a message, and this is the default. The second option, you can let the caller record a message or be transferred to someone else, either or. So they can record the message or be transferred to someone else. The third option, you can get Teams to play your greeting and in the call. So the caller will hear the greeting and the call will drop. And the last option, we can get Teams to play the greeting and then transfer the caller to someone else. Now, if I select number 2 or 4, I will be asked to type a name or number. So this is number 2. The same goes for number 4. Type a name or number. And as I said, this is the default. And the reason this is the default, because of the policies we have in Teams Admin Center. And if I go to my Teams Admin Center here, and I go to calling policies. Now let's take a look at the global org-wide default. And from here, I have my voicemail for inbound calls. Let users decide, so they can be on or off for users. And the default is let users decide, and that's why we see these options, and we can select other option and customize things in the Teams client. Now the other area I have in my Teams admin center, if I go to my users, manage users, let's go to Alice Williams and go to the voicemail tab here. So it's on for Alice Williams and the prompt language is English US. Call answering mode. Caller can leave a voicemail, and we have other options as well. And we have other settings here. Out of office greeting, we haven't covered this. I'll get to this in a second. But again, these are the defaults and I can change things if I want to. I can also do it in PowerShell. Let's go back to the settings here. And one other thing, voicemail is included in the Teams standard licensing. So it's part of E3. You don't want E5 or Teams telephone integration for voicemail. It's part of your standard Teams licensing. So E3, for example. And the last one here is manage out of office voicemail. You can type a custom greeting. This is for your out of office voicemail, which is different than the standard voicemail. And Teams will play this, or Teams can play this based on your preferences all the time, or when Outlook auto replies are on, or when I have an out of office event on my calendar. And if I select this one, the others will be grayed out. If I do this and this, then I can get Teams to play it only when I have auto replies. That's Outlook or Teams auto replies, and when I have an out of office event on my calendar. So with that, we're done with all these settings. So let's go back and recap quickly. So when someone calls on Teams, I can pick up the call. It will ring on my client, my desktop client or my mobile client. I can pick up the call. If I don't, in 20 seconds by default, it will go to voicemail. We have a default voicemail message that Teams plays. Otherwise, I can record a greeting, or I can do a text to speech. I can get Teams to let the caller record a message. I can also get Teams to let the caller record a message or be transferred to someone else. Just play the greeting and in the call, or play the greeting, then transfer the caller to someone else. I can do any of these call handling options. And the last one here, I have my out of office voicemail greeting. I can type one here and Teams will play it to callers. I can have Teams play this voicemail, out of office voicemail message all the time, or when I have auto replies or out of office event on my calendar. And these are all the call settings in Teams. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.